Hello. So Alexandria Cortez is big in the news now. But Alexandria Cortez represents a minor, a minor sort of existence. She's just an expression of, she's an expression of nothingness, really, of just pure ignorance of the way the world works. She's like a child playing with a chemistry set. She has no idea the way the world works, the way value is created in the world, what humanity is. She doesn't even know what humanity is. If you want to create value in the world, you have to have individual autonomy. Because only the individual is competent to make decisions for herself. When you take your maternalistic values, which is what drives the left, what's the emotion that drives the West, is that nurturing value. That value is applied properly through voluntarism. It's not through coercion. When you have people in the world who are destitute, the best way to take care of them is to take care of them and not to coerce somebody else into taking care of them. That's the cause of all the problems of society, is to be coerced into trying to take care of somebody else. And that's what causes suffering in the world more than anything else. Just the existence of the individual, the suffering is minimal because the individual, he's incentivized to help himself and to help somebody else. He's incentivized for that because, when you help other people, you always can provide wealth and well-being with cooperation. And everybody knows that. That's why our parents asked about our well-being. And in their productivity to provide for us, they cooperated at the place of productivity. And of course, because we don't live in a society of cooperation, we live in a coercive society, which is, I'm able to operate here voluntarily, but it's very limited. If I tried to become famous, if I made myself famous, my ability to convey the information of freedom, of the value of voluntarism, would be curtailed. Because the people who pretend to be altruistic through government distribution of resources and regulation of activities are really, what they're really about is control and the engineering of society, which is contrary to the nature of life, which is the voluntary individual being the most competent person, the autonomous individual being the most competent person. So this Alexandra Cortez doesn't even know those basics of existence. It's a basic of existence, that all value created in society comes from the autonomous individual, doesn't come in voluntary cooperation, which is a spontaneous thing to do. It's based on the fact that our parents taught us to ask how we feel by asking us how we felt when we were little. They didn't force us into situations that would made us miserable. I mean, I guess there are extreme levels of karma where the child is completely miserable by the discipline of the children, of the parents, imposed by the parents. But generally speaking, the parents, they put that discipline in the context of happiness for the child. And the happiness for the child is not objectively defined. It's subjectively determined. It's not even knowable because we don't know subjectivity of somebody else. Even the mother doesn't know the child as well as the child knows herself. And that's why we constantly ask, right? We constantly ask, what do you think? How do you feel? What would you like to do? How would you like this and that and the other thing? And then when we grow up, we extend that. And that's the source of value in life. That's the only source of value. So if you're a socialist, you're a monster because you are forcing people into certain behaviors. As if no one cared for anyone else until government came along. And obviously, everyone cares for everyone else naturally, unless, they just happen to have a monstrous existence, which is a tiny minority of individuals, right? A very small fraction of the individuals have a destructive existence. How do they even survive to adulthood? And the mechanics of dealing with pathology and the mechanics of dealing, and it's the same mechanics, the mechanics of dealing with poverty are the same. Voluntarism. And by the way, charity is not nearly as nice as opportunity. Because charity is kind of predefined when it's impersonal. And opportunity is subjective. One man's trash is another man's treasure. So the opportunity of life, that's what charity really is. And that means that the individual, autonomous individual, has to construct activity, and that means he has to be able to accumulate material wealth. And all the individuals in society are doing that at once, then everyone has to serve. And you have a society that recognizes the autonomous individual, in other words, freedom. Then everyone has to serve everyone else. And that's what makes the world great and rich. And that's what happened approximately in the 19th century up until the creation of the Federal Reserve. And we had growth in the 20th century too, but it would have been far, far greater if we had not created a central bank and not gone to war. Because we had a central bank and had the ability to go to war. And also we would have not gone off, and had we not gone off the gold standard as well. Because money is like, it's based on a personal decision, whether to save or to spend or to invest. These are all personal decisions based on our desire to fulfill ourselves, regardless of how directly altruistic they are, those desires. They don't have to be directly altruistic to be altruistic. Because if everyone in society owns themselves, then everyone else has to serve the other person. In order for them to fulfill their desires, and even in a selfish way, they have to be altruistic. So all the solutions to society's problems come through self-ownership and freedom and personal autonomy. And this is what economics is actually predicting. Real economics, not the fake economics that the government schools have created, or the and also the social structure is also based on autonomy. The well-being of life is based on autonomy. It's not based on coercion, which is what government is. So government is inconsistent with human nature. And I wish my friends could figure that one out. Because they'll tell me things like that libertarianism means government means no rules. Whereas the rule of self-ownership is the rule based on which all problems of society are solved and dissolved. If there was self-ownership in society, and this is the case in Somalia during the 1990s and 2000s, where actually the Somalia society did better pre-1991 and in comparison to the surrounding countries, it did better over those two time shifts between pre-91 and 90. This is shown in the UN and World Bank statistics. Longevity increased, infant mortality reduced, that kind of thing. So it isn't just that you have to, that I'm presenting empirical evidence such as that, or the 19th century America's growth of wealth, where there was very little government compared to now. It's just that I want you to understand in an a priori way what freedom means. It means the maximum value that each of us creates. It's a metaphysical view of subjective possibilities that none of us really understand, and yet we see manifest. That's what creates wonder in the world. And that's what Alexandria Cortez doesn't know. Ocasio. What's her name? AOC or something? She doesn't get it. And the conservatives and the libertarians don't quite get that. But they get it better. The libertarians get it the best. And the best are the ones who actually believe in no government. Because there's a lot of libertarians that believe in minimal government. So that's where value comes from. It comes from freedom. Getting rid of any pretension or presumption of authority, of false authority. Not true authority, which comes from voluntarism. All right.